Hi dear students, how are you? I think all of you prepared the topic which we have completed in the last sessions. Now today we are going to learn the topic that is pteridophytes. The pteridophytes include horsetails and fawns. Once again see, pteridophytes include horsetails and fawns. So when we were learning about algae, we have learned that they divide into three main classes: Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae. And in the case of Bryophyta, even we have seen that they are also divided into three main classes according to the material when we learned. What were the names? Yes, Hepaticopsida, second Anthocerotopsida, third Bryopsida or Musae. Hepaticopsida includes what? Liverworts. Anthocerotopsida, hornworts, and Bryopsida or Musae includes mosses. So here we are going to learn that pteridophyta, they include what? Horsetails and fawns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. So very important functions or very important uses are there of pteridophytes. First point what we have learnt, pteridophytes include what? Horsetails and fawns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. In many of the offices, otherwise wherever we are going, in front of that we can see many ornamental plants. So most of them are coming under which one? Pteridophytes. So they are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Evolutionarily, when we are saying, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. So when coming to this point, you have to understand, when we are discussing about bryophytes, we told that in that mosses are there. Otherwise bryophytes plants, they are not successfully land plants. And the reason also told that, because one point we discussed that they don't have vascular tissue, and the second point which was that they have to depend on water for reproduction. So here we are saying evolutionarily, when we are saying the first terrestrial plant to possess vascular tissue, that is xylem and phloem, that's of pteridophytes. So very important point which you have to underline. And you shall study more about these tissues in chapter 6. And pteridophytes are found in cool, damp, shady places, though some may flourish well in sandy soil conditions. In the case of bryophytes also we told that they are also known as cyophytes because they need moist, wet, shady places for growing. But in the case of pteridophytes we are saying that they are found in cool, damp, shady places, but some of them are well developed or well flourished where in sandy soil conditions also. In the first paragraph, whatever points we discussed, the pteridophytes include horsetails and fawns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Evolutionarily, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. And the habitat, they are found in cold, damp, shady places, though some may flourish well in sandy soil conditions. You may recall that in bryophytes, the dominant phase in the life cycle is the gametophytic plant body. Many times we discussed that haploid gametophytic phase is the predominant phase or the main phase or the dominating phase. However, in pteridophytes, the main plant body is a sporophyte, which is differentiated into true root, stem and leaves. So first time we are going to discuss like true root, true stem and true leaf, that is also in pteridophytes. So very important point. So in the case of bryophytes, the dominant phase in the life cycle that we discussed that it is the gametophytic plant body, haploid one. But in the case of pteridophytes, the main plant body is a sporophyte which is differentiated into true root, stem and leaves. So here figure 3.3 it is given. Pteridophytes, First, A. Selaginella, B. Equisetum, and C. Fern, and D. Salvinia. In each and every one you can see stem is there, leaf is present there, even roots are present. So here, as compared to bryophytes or algae, we can see well differentiated plant body. True root, true stem and true leaf structures. These organs possess well differentiated vascular tissues. The leaves in pteridophyte are small, that's why known as microphyls. As in the case of Selaginella, even you can see in the figure, very small leaves are present. And large leaves are present in the case of ferns. So they are known as macrophylls. Large leaves are known as macrophylls. The sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by a leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. So what they are known as? Sporophylls. Actually, what is present in the sporophyte bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. So what do you mean by sporophylls? So leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. So what you have to understand? What do you mean by sporophylls? Leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. Once again, leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. See the point once again in the textbook. The sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. So in short, we have to understand leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. In some cases, sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called strobili or cones. Strobilus singular, strobili plural. So in some cases, sporophylls means what? Leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. So in some cases, these sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called what? Strobili or cones. As in the case of Selaginella and Equisetum, you can see in the figure it is given. On the top, you can see a compact structure known as strobilus. Plural is strobili. So in Selaginella, Equisetum, this compact structure is present known as strobili or cones. This sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. This we discussed already in last Bryophyta case also. So what we are seeing here, in some cases sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called strobili or cones. These sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. These spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous, small but multicellular free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. So once again see the point. So the sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. The spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous. Inconspicuous means you have to understand not clearly visible. So very small but multicellular, free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. So we already told that as compared to Bryophyta and Pteridophyte, the main plant body is the sporophyte, which is having true root, stem and leaf, and the structures having vascular tissues. And then we told that there are few structures which are known as sporophylls. That means what you have to understand, leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. And in some cases, sporophylls may form compact structures known as strobilus or cones. And the sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. And the spores germinate to what? They germinate to give rise to inconspicuous, small but multicellular, free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. The gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and the need of water for fertilization, the spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical regions. So that's why we cannot say that these pteridophytes are found everywhere. Why it is limited? What is the reason behind that? Because these gametophytes, the prothallus, which is developed from the spores, that is spore mother cells, undergoes meiotic division, and then the spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous, small, multicellular, free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte called prothallus. And these gametophytes require what condition? Cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and the need of water for fertilization, the spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical regions. That means it is not found everywhere. Some of the particular regions only it is found where the cool, damp, shady place is found, because that condition is needed for the gametophyte to grow. And the gametophytes bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia respectively. And water is required for transfer of antherozoids, the male gametes released from antheridia, to the mouth of archegonia. As we discussed in the case of bryophyte, also the same is here when the sexual reproduction matter is coming in the case of sporophytes. And the case of pteridophyte, there also the need of water is for completing the reproduction, because antheridia, which produce the male gamete known as antherozoids, it has to move through water to reach the flask-shaped archegonium, to the mouth of it. The male gametes released from the antheridia to the mouth of archegonium, then fusion of male gamete with the egg present in the archegonium result in the formation of zygote. So here male and female gamete, that is antherozoid and the egg, fuses to form zygote, and the zygote thereafter produces a multicellular well-differentiated sporophyte, which is the dominant phase of pteridophytes. This was the first point even we told that as compared to bryophytes in pteridophyte, the dominating phase is which one? The dominating part is the sporophyte. So here we are saying the fusion of male and female gamete result in the formation of diploid zygote, and the zygote thereafter produces a multicellular well-differentiated sporophyte, which is the dominant phase of pteridophytes. In majority of pteridophytes, all the spores are similar kinds. Such plants are called homosporous. Once again see the point. In majority of pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kind. Such plants are called homosporous. Homo means same, sporous means spores. So same kinds of spores are producing. Such type of pteridophytes are known as homosporous. Genera like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spores, that is macro large spores and micro small spores, which are known as heterosporous. So in case of Pteridophyta, the sporophyte which produce if same kind of spores, then it is known as homosporous. And in the genera like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spores, that is macrospores, big spores, and the microspores, small spores. So then it is known as heterosporous. Hetero means you have to understand different, sporous means spores. The megaspores and microspores germinate and give rise to female and male gametophyte respectively. So you have to understand the megaspores germinate to form what? Female gametophyte, and the microspore germinate to form the male gametophyte. It's a very, very important point. In the case of Selaginella and Salvinia, they are coming under the category of heterosporous because they produce two different kinds of spores, macrospore or megaspore and microspore or small spores. And the macrospore or megaspore germinate to give rise to what? Female gametophyte, and the microspores give rise to what? Germinate to give rise to male gametophyte. The female gametophyte in these plants are retained on the parent sporophyte for variable periods. So what is happening? The female gametophyte in these plants, as in the case of Selaginella and Salvinia, they are retained on the parent sporophyte for variable periods. The development of the zygotes into young embryo take place within the female gametophyte. Once again see that the development of zygotes into young embryo takes place within the female gametophyte. This event is a precursor of the seed habit, considered an important step in evolution. So evolutionary basis when we are considering the formation of seed habit. Otherwise, the beginning of the formation of seed we can see in the case of pteridophytes, because we are seeing that in the female gametophyte, what is happening? The development of the zygote into young embryo take place. So this event is a precursor of the seed habit, considered an important step in evolution. Very, very important point. The pteridophytes are further classified into 4 classes: Coelopsida, Coelotum, Lycopsida, Selaginella, Lycopodium, Sphenopsida, Equisetum, and Pteropsida, Dryopteris, Pteris, Adiantum. So listen here. The pteridophytes are further classified into 4 classes: Coelopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, and Pteropsida. Example of Coelopsida coelotum, Lycopsida Selaginella and Lycopodium, Sphenopsida equisetum, and Pteropsida. Example Dryopteris, Pteris, and Adiantum. So in the case of pteridophytes, whatever points we discussed here, first of all we told that the pteridophytes include mainly horsetails and ferns. Then they are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Evolutionarily, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. The pteridophytes are found in cool, damp, shady places, though some may flourish well in sandy soil conditions. Then we told that bryophytes, the dominant phase in the life cycle is the gametophytic plant body, but in the case of pteridophytes, the dominating phase is the sporophytic plant body, and which is differentiated into true root, stem, and leaf. And these organs, well differentiated organs, possess what? Well differentiated vascular tissues. And the leaves in Pteridophyta are of different types, as in the case of Selaginella. They are small, so they are known as microphylls. In the case of ferns, the leaves are large, known as macrophylls. Then we told that the sporophytes bear sporangia, that are subtended leaf-like structures called sporophylls. The sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. Even I told you that what do you mean by sporophylls? Leaves which bear sporangia are called sporophylls. And in some cases, sporophylls may form what? Distinct compact structures called what? Strobili or cones, as in the case of Selaginella and Equisetum. And this sporangia produces what? Spores by meiosis in spore mothers. And the spores germinate to give rise to what? Inconspicuous, small but multicellular, what? Free living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. And these gametophytes, that is these photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte, which is known as prothallus, which require cool, damp, shady places to grow. And this is a condition and this is a restriction. So because of this specific restricted requirement and the need of water for fertilizer, 2 reasons are there. One, restricted requirement is there to grow, that is cool, damp, shady places to grow. Another one, need of water for fertilization. The spread of living pteridophyte is limited to restricted to narrow geographical regions. So that's why the spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical regions. The gametophytes bear male and female sex organs. What they are known as? Male sex organ is known as antheridia and female sex organ is known as archegonia. And water is required for the transfer of antherozoids. Antherozoids are what? Yes, the male gamete. And the male gametes are released from antheridia to where? To the mouth of archegonium, which is the female sex organ. And the fusion of male gamete with the egg is the female gamete, present in the archegonium result in the formation of what? Zygote. And the zygote thereafter produces a multicellular, well-differentiated sporophyte, and which is the dominant phase of pteridophytes, which we already discussed. In majority of pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kinds. So here we have to understand in pteridophytes, two types are there, homosporous and heterosporous. In majority of pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kinds. Such plants are called homosporous. The plants which produce similar kinds of spores are known as homosporous. But in the case of genera like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spores, macrospores and microspores, or large spores and small spores, which are known as heterosporous. And the megaspores germinate and give rise to female gametophyte, and the microspores germinate and give rise to male gametophyte. The female gametophyte in these plants are retained on the parent sporophyte for variable periods, variable duration, and the development of the zygote into young embryo take place within the female gametophyte. It's a very important point. As a part of evolutionary basis, you have to understand that and even underline the point. And this event, which event? The development of the zygote into young embryo, which take place within the female gametophyte. This event is a precursor of the seed habit, considered as an important step in evolution. It's very important point. Now again we told that the pteridophytes are further classified into how many classes? 4 classes. Which are they? Yes, Xylopsida, Coleotom example, Lycopsida, Selaginella and Lycopodium, Sphenopsida, Equisetum, and Pteropsida, Dryopteris, Pteris and Adiantum. So I think this topic is clear for you. Means whatever we are learning, you have to understand that and you have to compare with the topic which we learned earlier. So when we are learning about pteridophytes, you have to compare the points with algae, bryophytes, and you have to make a flowchart according to that. So whatever the similarities there, whatever dissimilarities there, whatever the points are covering there, so like that you have to make a note and do the preparation. So now the topic of Pteridophyta, which we have to learn from the material. Okay students, now let's start with the same topic from the material. So we have completed the topic Pteridophyta from textbook. Now in detail we have to go through from the material. Please take out page number 69. Now here some important points are mentioned which one was not given in the textbook. First point, term Pteridophyta was proposed by Haeckel. So who proposed the term Pteridophyta? What's the name? By Haeckel. So what's the name of the scientist? Haeckel. So now you have to answer me, the term Bryophyta was proposed by whom? Anybody knows that? Have you any idea? Yes, Robert Brown. And what the study of bryophytes known as? Good, bryology. So now here the study of pteridophytes is known as pteridology. So study of bryophyte is known as bryology and study of pteridophyte is known as pteridology. Here you have to understand, we are writing the spelling P-T-E-R-I-D-O-P-H-Y-T-A, but the pronunciation is pterido. P is silent there. So please take care of the same. So 2 points we told. The term Pteridophyta was proposed by Haeckel. The study of pteridophyte is known as pteridology. Pteridophytes are known as reptiles of plant kingdom. So in the case of bryophytes also we told some unique feature. And one of the characteristic we told that bryophytes are known as the amphibians of plant kingdom. Because even they are living on land, but they have to depend water in reproduction. So here pteridophytes are known as reptiles of plant kingdom. So amphibians of plant kingdom is bryophytes and reptiles of plant kingdom is Pteridophyta. So these 3 points you have to remember. Who proposed the term pteridophyte? Study of pteridophyte is known as what? And what pteridophytes are known as. Clear for you? Okay. Pteridophytes are also called as vascular cryptogams. See the point once again. Pteridophytes are also called as vascular cryptogams. Pteridophytes are vascular plants In the textbook we told that first plant whomsoever having vascular tissue are pteridophytes. And here we are saying pteridophytes are also called as vascular cryptogams. Pteridophytes are vascular plants, that is xylem and phloem are present in it. In pteridophytes, vessels in xylem and companion cells in phloem are absent. Because the well-developed, we cannot say that, but the initial stage as compared to others, the first time development started in pteridophyte. According to that, in pteridophytes, vessels in xylem and companion cells in phloem are absent. But exceptionally, xylem of pteridium, Selaginella and Marsilia contains false vessels. We can say pseudo vessels are present. So these all are a point of evolution. So we have to understand that. So in this point you have to understand pteridophytes are called as vascular cryptogams because they are having vascular tissue, and that's why they are known as vascular plants. In that xylem and phloem are present. So here one note is given, one important point is given. Secondary growth is absent. Why? Because of the absence of cambium in pteridophytes. But exceptionally, secondary growth is present in stem of Isoetes. So means wherever we are studying some exceptional cases, we are learning only there. So majority of the case in Pteridophyta, secondary growth is absent. The reason is that cambium is absent. But exceptionally, secondary growth is present in the stem of Isoetes, one of the species of Pteridophyta. In that, secondary growth is present. But all others, what is that? Secondary growth is absent. What is the reason? Because of the absence of cambium. Next point, pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. This point will be discussed in the textbook also. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Pteridophytes are called as the first successful terrestrial plants. That is, they are more adapted terrestrial plants as compared to bryophytes because vascular tissue is present in pteridophytes and they have roots. So this point, see once again, pteridophytes are called as the first successful terrestrial plant. That is, they are more adapted terrestrial plants as compared to bryophytes. How they are more adapted? Because vascular tissue is present in pteridophytes and even they have roots. Pteridophytes are not completely successful terrestrial plants. This point was also discussed. Why they are not completely successful plants? Because they need water for fertilization. So pteridophytes grow in shady and moist places. Because the requirement of water, as in the case of bryophytes, in pteridophytes also there. They need water for fertilization. So that's why they are not completely successful terrestrial plants. In Pteridophyta, the plant body is completely differentiated into root, stem and leaves. Till bryophytes, we were telling that most of the species root-like, stem-like, leaf-like structures we discussed. But the first time we are telling that the plant body is completely differentiated into root, stem and leaves. The primary root remains alive for short period. After some time, it is replaced by adventitious roots. So now to ask you, what do you mean by adventitious roots? Usually the roots develop from where? The primary root is developed from radicle. But here, apart from radicle, from any other part of the plant, if the root is developing, so we can call it as what? Adventitious roots. Here in the case of Pteridophyta, the primary root remains alive for short period. After some time, it is replaced by adventitious roots. Stem is erect or prostrate, that means straight. When in pteridophyte, stem is underground, which is known as rhizome. So in the case of pteridophyte, if the stem is present underground, then we can call it as rhizome. On the basis of leaves, pteridophytes are of two types. You have to tell me which are they. We told that two types of leaves are present in some of the species. Very small leaves are there. That's why they are known as microphyll. And large leaves, then it is known as macrophyll or megaphyll. So the same we are going to explain here. On the basis of leaves, pteridophytes are of two types. First, in which stem is smaller while leaves are larger. They are known as megaphyllous pteridophytes. Mega means big, phyllous means leaf. So, large leaf bearing pteridophytes are known as what? Megaphyllous pteridophytes, as in the case of ferns. So, example of megaphyllous plant is ferns. Second, in which stem is larger, leaves are smaller. So, just opposite you have to understand. In the case of first, that means megaphyllous, stem smaller, leaves larger. And in the second, stem is larger, leaves are smaller. They are called as microphyllous pteridophytes. Example, Selaginella. So, what is the example? Selaginella. So, on the basis of leaves, pteridophytes are divided into two types, that is megaphyllous and microphyllous. Example also you have to remember, megaphyllous example fern, in that stem small, leaves larger. And in the case of Selaginella, that is microphyllous, stem is larger, leaves are smaller. Life cycle of pteridophytes we have to understand now. Listen. Plant is sporophyte, that is diploid and they reproduce by spore formation. In the case of bryophytes, we told that the haploid gametophyte is the predominant phase and the sporophyte is depending on them. But here we are saying that plant is sporophyte, that is diploid and they reproduce by spore formation. Even you have to understand, gametophyte means gamete producing plants and sporophyte means spore producing plants. Here the plant is sporophyte and that is diploid and they reproduce by what? Spore formation. Most of the pteridophytes are homosporous. This also we discussed from the textbook. What was that? Most of the pteridophytes are homosporous, that is only one type of spores are formed during reproduction. Same type or one type of spores are formed during reproduction in the case of homosporous, and majority of the pteridophytes are homosporous. Exception, some pteridophytes are heterosporous, that is two types of spores are formed. Small spores known as microspores and big spores known as megaspores. Formation of spores takes place in sporangia. This point you have to understand, it was discussed only there. Formation of spores takes place where? In sporangia. Sporangia plural, sporangium singular. Sporangia are formed at the abaxial surface of leaves. Where it is formed? At the abaxial surface of leaves. The leaves on which sporangia are formed are called sporophylls, or we can call it as reproductive leaves. Once again see, first we told that formation of spores takes place in sporangia and sporangia are formed at the abaxial surface of leaves, and the leaves on which sporangia are formed are called sporophylls, or it is known as reproductive leaves, and the normal photosynthetic leaves are called tropophylls. Very important here. You have to understand that in the pteridophytes, when coming to the part of leaves, so some of the leaves on which sporangia are formed are known as sporophylls and it is also known as reproductive leaves, and the normal photosynthetic leaves are known as what? Tropophylls, and it is also known as vegetative leaves. So in the reproductive leaves also present and vegetative leaves also present which perform photosynthesis, and they are known as tropophylls. Sporangia are present in groups. These groups are called sorus. Once again see, sporangia are present in groups and these groups are called sorus and the plural is sori, and sori are found on sporophylls. Sori are found on sporophylls. Sporophylls means what? The leaves on which sporangia are formed are called sporophylls. So here one note is given. In Pteridophyta, sporophylls are also photosynthetic. It's a very important point. In Pteridophyta, even sporophylls are also photosynthetic. This is a unique character of Pteridophyta. Next, spore mother cells are present in sporangia. Spores are formed within sporangium. So where spores are formed? Within sporangium by meiosis in spore mother cells, and the spores start the gametophytic generation. So you have to understand, it's very simple. Within the sporangium by meiotic division from spore mother cells, spores are producing, and these spores germinate to form gametophyte. So these spores germinate to give rise to what? Gametophytes. In Pteridophyta, the germination of spores is exosporic. Once again see, in Pteridophyta, the germination of spores is exosporic. What do you mean by that? That is, germination takes place outside the sporangia, that is in soil. So, as we told that within the sporangium, by meiotic division of spore mother cells, spores are formed, and these spores germinate to give what? Gametophyte, haploid. And in Pteridophyta, the germination of spores is exosporic. That is, germination takes place outside the sporangia, that is in soil. In soil, a gametophyte is formed by the germination of each spore, which is known as prothallus. Once again see the point. In soil, a gametophyte is formed by the germination of each spore, which is known as prothallus. The formation of gametophyte takes place in the soil, therefore it is free, that is independent and mostly photosynthetic. The formation of gametophyte takes place in the soil, therefore it is free, or we can call it as they are independent and mostly they are photosynthetic. These gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and the need for water for fertilization, the spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical region. This point was already explained from the textbook. The same is there. One note is given: in some pteridophytes, prothallus is saprophytic. What do you mean by saprophytic? Yes, obtaining the nourishment from the dead and decaying matter. What is saprophytic? Obtaining nourishment from the dead decaying matter, organic matter. Next point, there is no relation between the main sporophytic plant and prothallus. Prothallus, that is the gametophyte plant, is made up of thallus and rhizoids. It is made up of what? Thallus and rhizoids. When we are telling about the sporophyte, we told that it is having vascular tissue. And here we are telling from the spores, the germinated gametophyte, it is not having any relation with the main sporophytic plant. So here there is no relation between the main sporophytic plant and prothallus. Prothallus, that is the gametophyte plant, is made up of thallus and rhizoids. It is non-vascular. So as compared to sporophyte, this gametophyte is non-vascular. It is not having vascular tissue. In plant kingdom, gametophyte is always non-vascular. It's a very important point. In plant kingdom, gametophyte is always non-vascular. In homosporous pteridophytes, gametophyte is monoecious. Dioecious, sexes are separate. Monoecious, in the same both the sex organs present. So in homosporous pteridophytes, gametophyte is monoecious. The formation of sex organs takes place on this gametophyte. Male sex organs are called as antheridium and female sex organs are called as archegonium. The formation of male gamete takes place in antheridia, which are known as antherozoids. What they are known as? Antherozoids. Antherozoids are spiral and multiflagellate, means having more than one flagella, but exceptionally antherozoid of Selaginella are spindle shaped and biflagellate. So usually majority of the cases antherozoids are spiral and multiflagellate, But exceptionally, anthrozoid of Selaginella are spindle-shaped and biflagellate. And the egg is formed in Archegonia. Fertilization takes place by zoidogamy. This was discussed in the case of bryophyte also. Means what is happening? The motile sperm or the male gamete through water moving towards the egg. So fertilization takes place by zoidogamy and zygote is formed as a result of fertilization. Zygote develops and forms an embryo. Now this embryo develops and forms a sporophytic plant with the root, stem and leaf. So the gametophytic plant, we told prothallus, it is having two parts, that is thallus and rhizoids, and which is non-vascular. But after fertilization, the diploid means zygote, and that develops into an embryo, and the embryo develops and forms a sporophytic plant which has a root, stem and leaf. Type of sexual reproduction in Pteridophyta is oogamous. What do you mean by oogamous? We have learned about that. Isogamous, anisogamous, oogamous. In oogamous case, female gamete is big and stationary and the male gamete is small and motile. This male gamete moves towards the female gamete and fertilization takes place. That is oogamous. And the life cycle of Pteridophyta is diplohaplodic or haplodiplodic. That means the intermediate stage. To complete the life cycle, anyhow they have to alternate with the haploid phase and diploid phase. But the main is diplodic there. The unique character of life cycle of Pteridophyta is independent alternation of generation. That is sporophyte and gametophyte are independent of each other. Means anyhow alternation of generation is necessary, that is happening also, but it is independent. In the case of bryophyta, we have seen that the haploid gametophyte is the dominant phase and the sporophyte is depending on gametophyte. But here we are saying that they are totally independent, but both the phases are coming in the life cycle. So that's why we are saying that the unique character of life cycle of Pteridophyta is independent alternation of generation. That is, sporophyte and gametophyte are independent of each other. Here you can see the sporophyte, sporophytic generation, that is diploid. In that sporophylls are there. Sporophylls bearing sporangia. From that, spore mother cells undergoes meiotic division and produce haploid spores. Haploid spores germinate to give rise what? Gametophyte, or it is known as prothallus. It has two parts, thallus and roots. And this gametophyte or prothallus having male sex organ and female sex organ, Antheridia and Archegonia. Antheridia produce the male gamete that is known as antherozoids and Archegonia produce the female gamete that is known as egg. And then the fertilization happens, that is zoidogamy. And because of that zygote, diploid zygote is formed and the zygote develops into embryo and the embryo again develops into the sporophyte. This is the alternation of generation. So you can see that sporophytic generation also there and gametophytic generation, but they are totally independent of each other. That's why it's known as independent alternation of generation. So here now one point is coming, heterospory. So here ventral surface of fern prothallus is given. As we told that monoecious there, so you can see both Antheridia and Archegonia both are present in the same plant. And the rhizoids present. This is the thallus portion and this is the rhizoid portion. As we told, the gametophyte or prothallus has two parts, rhizoid and thallus. And the thallus bears the sex organs, that is the male sex organ Antheridia and the female sex organs Archegonia. So now the point is coming, heterospory. In few pteridophytes, two types of spores are formed, that is microspore and megaspores in microsporangium and megasporangium respectively. And this phenomenon is known as heterospory or heterosporous condition. Once again say that in few pteridophytes, two types of spores are formed, that is microspore and megaspore. And microspores are developed in microsporangium and megaspores are developed in the megasporangium. And that condition or the phenomenon is known as heterospory. This phenomenon is known as heterospory and the condition is known as heterosporous condition. Some heterosporous pteridophytes are Selaginella, Azolla, Salvinia, Marsilia. So which are the examples of heterosporous pteridophytes? Selaginella, Azolla, Salvinia, Marsilia. In heterosporous pteridophytes, microspore produces male gametophyte and megaspore produces female gametophyte. Hence, the gametophyte in these plants are dioecious. So, in heterosporous pteridophytes, microspore produces male gametophyte and megaspore produces female gametophyte. Hence, the gametophytes in these plants are dioecious. That means they are separate. Earlier we saw that in the case of Fern, Prothalus, both are in the same. That's why we told that monoecious. But in the case of Selaginella or heterosporous pteridophytes, as they are produced from different, so that's why they are known as a gametophyte as dioecious. Gametophytes in these plants are dioecious. The development of zygote into young embryo take place within the female gametophyte, and the female gametophyte is retained on the parent sporophyte for variable periods. So the development of zygote into young embryo take place within the female gametophyte, and the female gametophyte is retained on the parent sporophyte for variable periods. Sporophyte spelling you have to correct S-P-O-R-O-P-H-Y-T-E. And this event is precursor of seed habit, considered an important step in evolution. Because which point or which event is considered as the precursor of seed habit? The development of zygote into young embryo take place within the female gametophyte, and the female gametophyte retained on the parent sporophyte for variable period is the event which is the precursor of seed habit, considered an important step in evolution. The development of male and female gametophyte in these plants take place inside the microsporangium and megasporangium respectively. Hence, the gametophytes are not completely independent and are not very much developed, so they are generally not completely regarded as Prothalus. So, here exceptional point is only telling that exceptional point we are saying that development of male and female gametophyte in these plants take place inside the microsporangium and megasporangium respectively. Hence, the gametophytes are not completely independent and are not very much developed, so they are generally not completely regarded as Prothalus. So dear students, from the textbook when we learned about Pteridophyta, just a simple 2 paragraphs were there, but when coming to this material you can see that the detailed explanation is given. Okay dear students, let's go ahead with the topic. So now we are going to learn about the division of Pteridophyta into 4 classes. In the case of Bryophyta also we learned that Bryophyta is divided into how many classes? 3 classes. Which were they? Yes, Hepaticopsida include liverworts, Anthocerotopsida which include what? Yes, hornworts, and Bryopsida or Musae or commonly known as mosses. Here now we are going to learn about the division of Pteridophyta. It is divided into 4 classes. Coelopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, Pteropsida. First one, Coelopsida. The most ancient vascular plants are placed in this class. Underline the points, very important. The most ancient vascular plants are placed in this class. The plants in this class have many primitive characters. Their plant body is differentiated into stem. We are calling it as, even we already informed that underground stem is known as what? Rhizome. Then scaly leaves and rhizoids, root-like structures. So, scaly leaves are there, root-like structure rhizoid is there, even stem is there but is underground, so it is known as rhizome. Only one living genus is present in this class is Coelotum. It's a living fossil. So, very important part is there, can be asked, a living fossil which include or which is included in Coelopsida, a class of Pteridophyta. What's the name? Coelotum. P silent. How to pronounce? Coelotum. Coelotum is a living fossil because only the one living genus which is present in this class Coelopsida is Coelotum. Rhynia and Horneophyton. They are known as fossil plants. Rhynia and Horneophyton. These two are known as fossil plants, which is coming under the class Coleopsida of means Pteridophyta. Now the second is Lycopsida. They are known as club mosses, which are placed in this class. So Lycopsida is also known as club mosses. The plant body of club mosses is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. So you can see the difference or the evolution, we can see that. Coleopsida, we told that they are differentiated into stem, that is rhizome, scaly leaves and rhizoids there. But when coming to the next class, that is Lycopsida, so there the club mosses are placed and the plant body of club mosses is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. And leaves are green and photosynthetic and known as tropophills. Do you remember the term tropophills? Yeah, you have to remember that point there. We told that two types of leaves there. Reproductive leaves also there, that is sporophylls, and the vegetative leaves, photosynthetic leaves present, that is known as tropophills. Very important point is there. Then sporophylls are present in group at the tip of plant. This group is called as strobilus or corn. From the textbook we have learned that the compact structure which is known as strobilus, singular is strobilus and the plural is strobili, and it is also known as corn. Lycopodium, the common club moss. Lycopodium, common club moss. It is a medicinal plant. It is used as tonic in homeopathic medicine. So very important one is that, please underline that. Lycopodium, which is coming under the class Lycopsida, and that is a medicinal plant. Mainly it is used as tonic in homeopathic medicines there. Selaginella, this is a little club moss or spike moss or bird's nest moss, or even it is known as a resurrection plant. So once again see, Selaginella, it's known as what? Little club moss, spike moss, bird's nest moss or a resurrection plant. Selaginella bryopteris, it is known as Sanjeevani, can give life, that means medicine, that much importance is for that, that's why it's known as Sanjeevani. Selaginella bryopteris is also known as what? Sanjeevani. So in Selaginella you can see the parts. The plant body can be divided into root, stem and leaves. So here we have discussed about two classes of Pteridophyta. First of all, we have discussed about which one? Coleopsida. The ancient vascular plants are placed in that. Club mosses are placed in the second class Lycopsida, and Lycopodium in that which is used as a tonic in homeopathic medicine, and another one Selaginella bryopteris is known as Sanjeevani. It has different names there, you have to remember that. Now the third class, that is Sphenopsida. You have to remember that the spelling is Sphenopsida, but the pronunciation Sphenopsida. In this class, horsetails are included. What is it there? Horsetails. So from the textbook we learned that horsetails and ferns. So here we are telling in the Sphenopsida, horsetails are included. The plant body of horsetails are differentiated into root, stem, or stem we are saying rhizome also, because if underground stem, so we are calling by rhizome. That's why it is given both. So the plant body of horsetails are differentiated into root, stem and scaly leaves. Silica is present in the epidermis of stem and leaves. Due to silicated surface, leaves become rough. So please see that silica is present in the epidermis of stem and leaves of horsetails. Due to silicated surface, obviously what will be there? The leaves become rough. If two horsetail plants collide, then there is a dangerous chance of fire in the forest. So you see that how much means strong they are there. So what we are saying here, these horsetails which are coming under the class Sphenopsida, the plant body of horsetails are differentiated into root, stem, or rhizome and scaly leaves. But in the epidermis of the stem and leaves of this Sphenopsida or the horsetails, What is present? Silica. And because of the silicated surface, the leaves become rough. And if two hostile plants collide, then there is a dangerous chance of fire in the forest. The formation of sporangia takes place on special branches of stem called as sporangiophores. We have learned about archegoniophore, antheridiophore, where the archegonium or antheridium is developing. So the same way, where the sporangia formation takes place, such type of special branches of stem are known as sporangiophores. Sporangiophores are arranged in a group and form a long and condensed cone. This cone is formed at the apical part of the aerial stem. So on special branches they are developing, they are formed as a condensed cone, a compact structure, and this cone is formed where? At the apical part of the aerial stem. Example, equisetum or pipe, commonly known as pipe. Equisetum or pipe. Now the last class of Pteridophyta is Pteropsida. What is the name? Pteropsida. This is the largest group of pteridophytes. This is the largest group of pteridophytes. So we were discussing about the classes of pteridophyte. From that, Coelobzida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida we have discussed, completed. Now the last one we are saying about Pteropsida, and out of these four classes, the largest group of pteridophyte is Pteropsida class. They are commonly called as ferns. From the textbook we learned that they include horsetails and ferns. Horsetails are coming under the class Sphenopsida. Pteropsida includes what? Ferns. They are commonly called as ferns. Most of the pteridophytes are ferns. Ferns are megaphyllous, means having large leaf. Megaphyllous, or we can call it as macrophyllous, that is, rhizome is small and the leaves are comparatively larger and the leaves are known as fronds. What they are known as? Fronds. Once again see that ferns are megaphyllous or macrophyllous, that is, rhizome is small, stem is small, leaves are comparatively larger, and these leaves are known as fronds. Multicellular hair are present on the young leaf and young rhizome of ferns, which are called as ramenta. This term was not given anywhere from the textbook. It was not explained only there. But one new terminology which you have to understand in the case of Pteropsida. Multicellular hair are present on the young leaf and young rhizome of ferns, which are called as ramenta. They are for protection. You can see in this figure it is given. It is labeled Succinate vernation, then ramenta, rhizome, adventitious root. Okay, so this is labeled here. Please see that diagram also. And what is the function of this ramenta? They are mainly for protection. And there is no difference between trophophylls and sporophylls in fern. So there we discussed that two types of leaves are there. Sporophylls also there, trophophylls also there. That means reproductive leaves also there, vegetative leaves also there, or photosynthetic leaves also there. And here in this case of Pteropsida, which include ferns, and there is no difference between trophophylls and sporophylls in fern. That is, every leaf of fern forms sporangia at the time of reproduction. Therefore, cones are not produced in ferns. So, in the case of ferns, each and every leaf forms sporangia at the time of reproduction. Therefore, cones are not produced in ferns. So, here examples given. Salvinia is given there. You can see the figure. And now examples of ferns. Azolla. Azolla is an aquatic fern, smallest pteridophyte and biofertilizer. So, very important is that, please note down the same. An aquatic fern, example is Azolla. What is another characteristic of the same? This is the smallest pteridophyte and it is a biofertilizer also. So very important plant is there. Azolla. Next is Adiantum. Adiantum is also known as walking fern. This name is given to them due to the rapid vegetative reproduction because they are spreading very fast. Rapid vegetative reproduction in Adiantum takes place by means of leaf tip. So because of the rapid vegetative reproduction, Adiantum is also known as walking fern. It spreads very fast. That's why it's known as walking fern. So Azolla, it's an aquatic fern and that is the smallest pteridophyte and a biofertilizer. Adiantum is known as the walking fern. Then Alsophila, tree fern or the largest pteridophyte. So here smallest also came, largest also came. Smallest pteridophyte is the aquatic fern Azolla and the largest pteridophyte is the tree fern Alsophila. What's the name? Alsophila. Azolla, Alsophila. So you can remember the name. Okay. Smallest Azolla, largest Alsophila. Then another examples are Pteridium, Dryopteris, Marsilia, Pteris salvinia. All these are the examples which are coming under the class Pteropsida of Pteridophyta. Some important points given. Selaginella, ligulate leaves, that means tongue shaped. Ligulate leaves means you have to understand what is meaning. Tongue shaped are present in it. So in Selaginella, what types of leaves are present? Tongue-shaped leaves are present. That is known as ligulate leaves. In some pteridophytes, sporangia are not formed on lower surface of sporophylls. In some pteridophytes, sporangia are formed in sporocarp. Example, Marsilia, Azolla, Salvinia. So 2 points we discussed here. In the case of Selaginella, ligulate leaves or tongue-shaped leaves are present. And in some pteridophytes, sporangia are not formed on lower surface of sporophylls. In some pteridophytes, sporangia are formed in sporocarp. Example, Marsilia, Azolla, Salvinia. So dear students, here we are completing the topic that is of Pteridophyta. Now in the coming session, we are going to learn about next topic of the chapter, that is Gymnosperm. Thank you so much for the session. Thank you once again.